Hi, everybody, and welcome to Metaphysical Insights. I'm your host, William Becker, and today I am thrilled to have, first of all, my friend and outstanding author, paranormal investigator, the subject of a haunting, I think it was, and other shows that have
Oh,
documented your experience,
yeah.
um, Mr. Stephen LaChance. So, Stephen, thank you so much for being here and welcome.
Thank you. I always like coming onto this show. We have fun.
Yeah, we do. And I get to visit with you for a minute
Of
or
course.
two.
I don't, yeah, we don't get to talk that often, do we?
I know. Well, Stephen's one of these guys who's a very prolific author and one who sells. And his books are outstanding. Actually, Stephen, before we do anything else, how do people, what's a link for people to follow your works, get your books, your web page, whatever?
Well, the books themselves are available at any major bookstore around the world, actually. I mean, you can pretty much, if they're not on the shelves, order them in any bookstore,
Uh-huh.
every major outlet. If you just want to find out what I'm up to or see what's new, you can go to my website, which is stephenlachance.com, just my name.com. And you'll find out all the books and everything there as well. And they link out to different things as well. All of the televisions on there, all of the films are on there. Anything you want to know, really, you can
Great.
find there.
Perfect. And so, everybody, I just put this in the chat, and so people can see that live or after the fact, it's there. So, fantastic. Well, you've just finished. Let me back up. Um, let's start at the beginning
Get
slightly.
ready, people. This is how we go.
Yes, exactly. And then, with my ADHD brain, it just makes it even more of an
It's both of
interesting.
us, right?
Yeah. And so, how did you get involved in the field
You
of
know,
paranormal?
that is the $1 million question, isn't it? I lived through a haunting of my own. I moved into a house. Some of you might have heard of it. It's called the Screaming House in Union, Missouri. I moved into that house in 2001. Up until that point, I was just a normal a normal writer, broadcaster. I was a corporate trainer. You know, paranormal, supernatural, spooky stuff really wasn't on my list.
Uh-huh.
I moved into this house and things went pretty bad pretty quickly. Um, Things moving through the house, the kids being terrorized, screaming. The house did scream, male scream, that
Wow.
sort of thing. Um, and it turned out that I moved into the town on haunted house without knowing so. I wasn't the only family this had happened to. It happened to others, and that's what started me down the road. Because the thing is I lived through this thing that I couldn't explain. You know,
Mm.
it's someone asked me years ago, did I think I was a skeptic? Did I think I was a skeptic where all of this was involved? And a skeptic was never the right term for me because it wasn't that I didn't believe in it or I just didn't give it much thought up to that point. You
Right.
know, and that really was the case. It wasn't that I was skeptical. I just didn't know. I mean, I was too busy. I was a single dad, so I was too busy raising family, you know. And so this thing happened, and I'm the kind of person that when something goes on, that I need to have answers. So I went out looking for the answers, and that's how it all started. And it seemed to bulldoze from there. I did some shows for a radio station out of St. Louis, um,
Okay.
the Dave Glover show, which was quite well done. And some other things. I was George Norrie, George before he was even on Coast to Coast, by the way.
Okay.
he was St. Louis at the point, and I became it just kind of grew from there. The very first time I told the story to people was to Art Bell, you know.
Oh,
Yeah, and somebody found that not too long ago. It was Ghost to Ghost, and it was probably October 2001.
okay.
It was after we had moved out of the house, and
Right.
Art was, was the first person that I ever talked to about it. So it just kind of took off, and as I started looking for things, I realized there was a lot of people out there like me, in my family, who were going through things, and I started learning how to navigate my way around and to help these families, or at least to be there to say to them, you're not crazy. I
Right.
get this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And believe it or not, that's huge for people. It's
Oh,
huge.
yeah.
So
Oh,
that's
very
how it
good.
all
And
started.
yeah, and I know as a medium, that's a piece too, is no, you're not crazy.
Right?
And people really appreciate it. And I don't say it unless I mean it. Um, that's fantastic. Now, how do you feel about the way the shows have treated, and I don't know if this is something you care to talk about. You can always tell me no.
No, I would. If it's a valid question though. I mean, I've been asked it before, and it's a haunting that I did for, which you can see now even on Max, I believe. Um,
Oh, it's on YouTube too. I just watched it 2 days ago.
Really, 19,
I did.
that thing was done in 2006, and it still plays, especially when you get to Halloween. It's just
Yeah.
everywhere. And I remember watching it for the first time, and I remember thinking to myself, wow, there's so much they could have told that they didn't, and there was so much that, excuse me, that they kind of expounded on more so than they should have. But I also realized, being, um, having worked in media and broadcasting and all those other things, I also realized that you have a certain finite amount of time to tell a story. And to do that, sometimes things get done a certain way. I mean, if you look at the European version of that show was 48 minutes long, the US version of that show was 46 minutes long. That's what you had to tell that story. So I think they did a pretty good job considering the time restraints. I will
Okay.
give them that. Would I have liked it to have been different or more? Of course, of course. Um, but I think for what it was, it did the job. Yeah.
Okay, good. Good. Because I'm always cautious about anything where the purpose is to make money. The
Mm.
show's purpose and that kind of thing. And
I am always, yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, I think when you deal with, and I've dealt with this in a lot of different things, and I think people's hearts are usually in the right place
good.
when you're dealing with it. But you also have to keep in mind that um, it's entertainment that
Right.
you're dealing with too. The first show when Ahani came on, the premiere was season 3 premiere of Ahani,
Uh-huh.
first third season, first show, season premiere, and it came on. And here it's coming on, and all of a sudden, there's all these. At that point, the Kodak was really big in 2006, believe it or not, still. And it was sponsored by Kodak, and these other huge companies. And I
Right.
went, really? And it's like, that was a lesson in itself, you
Right.
know. You realize that some of the worst part of your life here is become a commodity. And that's a little difficult. I mean, you have to weigh it all out, and you have to decide, why am I doing this?
Right.
Because you're not, believe it or not, you're not going to make a ton of money doing this. A lot of people
Oh,
think
no.
you don't.
No.
So it has to be other reasons. And my reason was, first, I wanted answers for myself, and then secondly, I wanted to help people like me.
Yeah.
and be there. So and when I talk to the kids, believe it or not, the kids, there's one kid you don't see in the show, and that's because he decided he didn't want to do it, and that was fine. But the other two, the discussion was, why are we doing this? And theirs was the same, I want a kid like me to know that it's okay. And I
Right.
think that's where you have to come down with is what is the proper thing that you're doing this for? Because
Yeah.
if any of you out there think you're going to do any of this and become rich for it, there's a lot of people that think I made all of my money from this, but it's kind of funny. It's not the
Y-
case.
No, I've
The days
I've
of
no.
Stephen King and making that kind of money, even
Yeah.
with writing, are over.
You've got to have um, several years of the show going, and you get to be one of the decision maker producers and all the rest of it before you start getting there. Yeah.
Yeah, takes a while. Takes a while, and
Yeah.
it's not something that happens overnight, and it's very rare if it does happen. So just
Yeah.
keep that in mind. So you gotta if someone comes up to you and you're a paranormal investigator or a medium and they want to do a show, you're not doing that for money. So you need to decide what you're doing it for. And
Right.
if that answer that you come up with is valuable and you find a value in it, then do it. And if it isn't, and if you just say, "Well, I want to do this because I want to make some money," don't, because you're not going there. You're not
Right.
going there. Kodak's going to make money. The
Exactly.
production is going to make money, but you're not.
Yeah. In fact, a lot of the
And
crew
that,
isn't
you
going
know
to make
what?
that much.
That's a pet peeve, William, because all of the people that we have in the paranormal and metaphysical communities, mediums, psychics, and that they'll work for free. They'll work for free. Now, the thing about that is there's a lot of people out there, in other things that won't work for free and they get paid. So keep that in mind when you go to take one of these shows too. Don't do it for free. Because if you're doing it for free, the next guy is not making it for the work he does. And that's a lot of work to do these things.
That's right.
Um, I've gotten paid for a few, but I will tell you for a haunting, I got paid lunch. Okay.
Really.
So, yeah, and that thing's still playing how many years later?
Yeah.
Keep that in mind.
And you know the people who are making money off of that.
Mhm.
Um, hmm
And, so I think that's important to understand unless you're doing serious work. Now, um, there's other things I have been paid for, but that one, no. No.
Yeah. 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 That actually makes me angry in a sense. Just the commercialism. No, that's the wrong word. The capitalistic approach.
The capitalistic approach.
Yeah.
And, but I think the other option is we get silent and we help no one else. I
Right.
mean, those valuable things that you're doing it for, you give up too. It's a fine line, but you gotta, I've turned down way more than probably I've done.
Yeah.
So it's nothing to walk away from something if it doesn't feel right. I had a television show once that wanted to um, have the kids on, and the kids were fine. I mean, there were, except for my daughter decided because she had just had my granddaughter, one of my three granddaughters. And she decided that she didn't want to do anything publicity wise at that point. So I told the television production company, I'm like, no, you we'll do it, but she won't be doing it. And they were like, well, you need to pressure her, and I'm like, and you need to hit the road.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, you run it upon that. There's been a lot more that I've turned down than I've actually accepted.
Yeah.
So this is a whole other thing that we could, you get into when you start talking about the media um, and these things. I think there's a lot of misnomers about
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think you're right. Um,
it. I threw
let's
you
get
off with that, didn't I?
No, I mean it's okay. It's I love it. Um, I can just hear my friend Ryan saying, "Focus." I am.
You
Um,
and I think, you know what? I think that's why people love it when we do this, is because they never know what's going to come out of it. You know, we're the same.
exactly.
It's kind
Exactly.
of fun. I
Yeah.
enjoy talking to you for that reason, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Um, yeah, it's great. I love it. Um, I guess let's go back or go then. You've got, I don't know, what, couple dozen books out?
Not a couple dozen. I'm actually writing a lot more than I ever have now.
Oh,
But I think, well, maybe a dozen through the
okay.
years of different things, and that's including, some short story things I did, like Weird Missouri, Weird Hauntings,
Okay.
and stuff like that. But the actual books, oh, Rick's gonna hate me that I don't remember this. I think I'm on my ninth or 10th one right now of
Okay.
actually a book on its own, but books with my name on it in some way, probably a little bit over a dozen.
Okay. Yeah. And I know that authors, you never ask a parent what or who their favorite child is,
Mm,
and um, at least not in public where the child might hear. But I know that a lot of people feel that way about their books as their children along those lines. And I know you work with fiction and nonfiction, and
mhm.
you've got a major fiction one that's recently out that I want to hear about, and then you've got a nonfiction that will probably be out before too long I want to
Right.
talk about. But
And another
in
fiction one between those two. But
oh yeah, um, do you have a particular favorite? Well, I guess book or a favorite genre to be working with, or the combination thereof? Because I know your fiction work also has its fact base.
yeah, it has to. As far as the style of what it's paranormal, supernatural, it has to
Hmm.
be. It has to be based in some type of research or fact,
Hmm.
to start with, and then we can go off into a fictional role, with some of the books, and then some of the books, like the book I did on the Exorcist boy, that was pure fact, or my own story, that was pure fact. Um,
Right.
the haunted truck stop, 85%. You know, um, it depends. It depends on what that is. The one that you're talking about that'll be coming up, after the next fiction book comes out, will be a fact based.
Right.
Um, I have that. I think the cool thing about what I get to do is I can move between those two things, and my audience will follow me through that, which is kind
Okay.
of good. Favorite book, though, I know that's what you were getting at.
Right.
A lot of people would say, well, of course, it's his true horror classic, which, um, thank you, Entertainment Weekly, for calling The Uninvited. It's considered a true horror classic. It's not my
Okay.
favorite book. It's not the favorite
Okay.
one I wrote. Um, I always the baby that you're working on right now is a favorite, but I
Right.
think I love Gorilla that I just released a lot, and for different reasons. For fact-based book, it would have been, Confrontation with Evil on The Exorcist boy. That one, and then Crazy. Crazy is probably my favorite in a lot of ways. The
Okay.
book's got a lot of heart, and it's based on a fact. It's based on urban legend. It's based on things. It was actually a love letter to where I grew up, because this truck stop was there, and all the people that I grew up around and with in the towns would tell me stories about it because they knew I was investigating, and it was on I had been on television with it and such. And so that book was kind of a love letter to them. So that's when I say it's not totally fact based. It's because that urban legend, I can't prove their urban legend, you know.
Okay.
But I thought that it was interesting to share everything that they told me, and that was part of it. The interesting part of crazy though is the part that you would think that maybe could be true or maybe not is. And that was the man that lived in the basement of the truck stop and the hermit. And there's the characters are all based on real conglomerates or people, real people or conglomerates thereof and things. The only thing that is fictional about the book is that um, the first half of the book happens in one night where um, it was strung together from a lot of different things. Um,
Right.
I love it because it's a hybrid book in that way.
Uh-huh.
Um, it was it was it was a lot of heart. You know, the thing that started that book was I had in the investigation that I was doing with it, I sat down with a young boy who had seen a violent reoccurrence of a thing that happened at the top of a stairway, and it's in the book. You know what happens to him, and as a matter of fact, it's funny we're talking about this, William. I just saw a picture of me talking to him the other day. I have a picture of it, and he inspired me to do this book. You know, I felt like it was important enough to do. And yeah, so crazy would probably be my most favorite, with a close second being Gorilla. But I got to tell you, like I said, I'm writing Grace right now, so I would also tell you Grace. But that's because you always are in love with what you're writing at the time.
Right. Right. Now,
I love
let's
them all.
yeah. Tell us about Gorilla, because we chatted a little before the show, and um, that's why I have him on, because then we get a little chance before the show too. So um, busy schedules, but what is this one about? It sounds fascinating on just about every level.
Years ago, I had a gentleman come to me, and he was, I don't know how to say it, the easiest way to say it. Connected government wise at one point,
Okay.
and he was interested in a story that was based out of Tennessee. But anyway, it had to do with LSD experiments in MK Ultra, which this is where it started. And through conversations with him and such is where the interest in the basis of the book started. And then the research into mind control
Okay.
experiments and the LSD that was actually being used for a lot of these things, and how they were dosing the public, and how people were being dosed without being known, and how they were trying to weaponize it and use it to their benefit. And the LSD they were using was nicknamed the monkey at the time.
Was the what?
And so, yeah, it was nicknamed the monkey.
Okay.
And the type, this certain LSD. Believe it or not, the United States government was the largest buyer of LSD out of anybody else in the 1950s. Another interesting aspect of it too is that they were looking at a lot of other different things. When you look at the cover of the Book of Gorilla, you'll see a man that is part monster gorilla and part man, and he's got a sunflower that makes up the O of the word gorilla. The sunflower is because the government was the largest producer of sunflowers at one point. And the reason that they were the largest producers of sunflowers at the point is they were harvesting the datura, which is hallucinogenic. It's a fungus that would grow quite easily and freely within the sunflowers. And you can look this up. You'll see that I'm telling you what I'm telling you is true.
Is
That's
that
all.
the dust? There's kind of a
Pardon me?
grayish. there's kind of a grayish greenish dust in them sometimes. Is
There's
that
a
it?
lot. Yes, yes. It's like, so the sunflower is where highly, by the way, highly hallucinogenic. They were really experimenting with a lot more than just the monkey and LSD. I mean, it was they were getting into a lot of different things. So all of this came in, and it was like, and then in the research, I started pulling up, there was the place in France where they actually dosed a whole town. There was, um, you go out you get into MK Ultra, and you start realizing the connection to Charles Manson and the family and all of the stuff that was going on there. And I went, my God, what if MK Ultra never ended? And according to the person that I was dealing with, government wise, it had it. And that was the basis of Gorilla. What if it never ended? And what if that research got into the hands of the wrong people and it was continued? And in the case of Gorilla, it gets in the hand of an evangelical preacher or minister,
Uh-huh.
highly successful, one of the top ones. And he starts developing this thing for mind control and people control, and ends up creating a monster or monsters. And so it's very, very based in reality, and the scary thing about Gorilla is not that it's fiction. The scary thing about Gorilla is it could happen tomorrow.
Right.
And I wanted to investigate that, and I wanted to go down that road, and see how easy it was. And it took me down some scary paths. Some of the research that went into that book was frightening. you know,
I believe it. Did you have men in
yeah.
black coats show up in black SUVs?
Well, I'm sure. Well, years ago, there was some of that was going on. Anybody that's read Blessed or the Wicked knows that was happening.
Uh-huh.
But in a lot of that, and I didn't talk about it in Blessed, a lot of that was connected to one of the people that I was dealing with, who was quite frightening, as far as his government connections. But
Yeah.
he thought that it was interesting is he saw the mind control, and it's interesting if you look at today in the use of psychedelics in psychiatry and people there, the low dosing and stuff and how it's helping people. He thought that it could be helpful, um, in a lot of those ways, but not only helpful with like psychiatric issues. He thought that, and there is some evidence to suggest that it could help in psychic ways, in paranormal ways, in supernatural ways, in dealing with other realms, and astral projection, and that sort of thing. Um,
Yeah.
and so it gets really interesting, and that's where Gorilla was born. Um, and a lot of people go, well, Gorilla. I'm like, there's actually two gorillas in the book. One is an absolute monster that starts the book, and then one is actually a test gorilla, um, that is tested on in a lab named Malice, and she's based on something real. And so you got to be careful of how much you give away here, but yeah, that's where it came from, and that's what it's about. So it's an
Okay.
interesting book. It's a violent book, though. It's probably the most violent thing I ever wrote, but I don't write violence for the sake of violence. And my readers, I was really worried that they were going to freak a little bit when they saw how violent this book was, but they understood the reason for it and the reason why. Um, because I didn't hold back anything, and I didn't pull no punches with it. This is it. And this is the
Yeah.
story. And this is why the story's this way. And here it is. The book's interesting. It's like Glow, the book before it, is in three, they're standalone books. There are three books that are going to be in this series, and it's called Modern Monsters. And the idea behind Modern Monsters is these things are not only paranormal, supernatural, it's also the monster within men. And
Right.
the monsters that we deal with in different ways in different times. And Gorilla is definitely in that realm. And so is Glow that came before it in Grace. which is coming after it. That's where those books are based. So all of the books start out with fact, and you find out the reasons why they're based in fact and why I started. And one of the reasons in Gorilla, one of the other reasons is that I was in a nightclub once with my husband, by the way, and I was drugged without my knowledge and
Oh
ended up in the
no.
hospital. Somebody slipped something into my drink, a
Oh, geez.
GHB. Yeah, and which come to find out, that's quite common. It happens more than you would like to think. And the thing is the horror of that is if it could happen to me, it could happen to anybody.
That's right.
I was with somebody that understood. But, so part of it is that too. I mean, so these books pull on a lot of different kinds of things. They pull on personal experience, they pull on fact. Um, that's set down in the beginning. Each book starts with a few words, before we start. It's basically an introduction, but it's a few words before we begin. And I lay it out, and then it goes into the fictional narratives after that. But some of the scarier parts of the books are based on very, very real things. So
Yeah, that makes sense. And
you
I've heard,
you open that can of worms.
I know, and I'm intrigued, and I need to get the book. Um, because, well, for lots of reasons, but I have read quite a bit about the experimentation, partly for seeing if it could be a truth serum, and partly for control, um, drugging unwitting people, including agents, um, different things. And um, I know there's quite a bit of good documentation out there that this is what you're talking about is real. And you kind of, that would certainly give one explanation to Christian nationalism.
Oh yes,
Uh,
we go into I. That's another portion of Gorilla and Grace too. Is to get into that side of things, a little bit,
yeah,
and how that becomes present and how it becomes weaponized and how it can become weaponized. I think more important than anything, how it can.
yeah,
And it's different in that way. Grace really, the basis for all these books actually uh, started with a play I wrote in 1992. And
oh,
yeah, I mean, I've always been wanting to to expand upon it and write things. It was right after the Rodney King thing,
okay,
verdict was released, and the chaos that went on during that time. And Grace was written at that point, and it was a play. And then I revisited it in 2012, actually pushed it to the side to write Confrontation. And but the time was right to write the three books. Actually, Glow I had written in 2009, and then I rewrote it for right before it was released with this book series. So these books have been in the works for actually decades, actually now, if you think
yeah,
about it. And so yeah, and it's funny. It's what's really funny about it is they always have a supernatural edge and a paranormal edge to it, even though I wasn't really into that at that point. Kind of interesting. It's
that is
like it's
interesting.
like these meant to be things.
Right. Oh, that's fascinating. Hmm. I wonder what that. There must have been some kind of an interest at some level that came out or led you to the topics and the information the stories are based on.
Yeah, you get well. Part of it was that part of the one thing was when I met the gentleman that got Gorilla going. So you have the Grace thing that happened in '92, and then you had Waco and all of that throughout that,
Right.
that kind of all fed into Grace, and it really is. And then you got Gorilla, which was the MK Ultra, and that's what in the mind control and all of that came around in 2006. 2005, 2006, when this gentleman came in, started asking questions, and um, just look up corpse wood, people. If you ever want to get into a little bit of this, it's sort
Corpsewood
of
people?
corpse wood. Look up corpse wood,
Okay.
in the story that surrounds that place and the doctor in there. I don't want to get into too much of that,
No,
but it's like we will have men in black at our front door.
right.
But yeah, so 2006 is that, and Glow actually was 2009 when people started coming to me with cases that resemble what happens in Glow. So I mean, these books have been in the works for a long time. It's probably longer than any of the other things, even in Zombie Road for that matter. Um, so I think that's interesting, that, it finally came to the point where I sat down and said, I'm going to do this. And here they are. And Grace is interesting because I'm taking a play and turning it into a novel,
Right.
which, and transforming it in the way that I want to, which is, I'm going to respect people that adapt things from now to the end of time. Trust me.
Oh, I love it. Um, you've got so many different talents and ways to put it together. Um, I think it's fantastic. I I looked up Corpsewood while we were talking so I wouldn't forget. And it's if the one I'm thinking of, it's a place, a house, a manor.
Yeah, Corpsewood Manor.
Okay, good. I've got the
Go
right one.
backwards from there. Go backwards, and well, you can go forwards, read what happened there, but then fall the way backwards.
Okay,
That
sounds
journey
good.
takes you. That journey takes you back to Chicago and such.
Okay, that's good to know. Ah, that's interesting.
You know. So yeah, it's there's got to be something. Even when I'm writing fiction, there's got to be something factual. There's got to be something of value, or why do it? I think you know. You're never going to pick up something I write and it's going to be just easy reading. I don't think I'll. I'm going to do a children's book though, believe it or not. Now that we're talking about all this, but
Oh,
I'm
that's
going to do a
great.
children's book for my grandsons. But yeah,
Yeah, a children's book on ghosts.
yeah, yeah.
And kids need, it's one of the debates out there. Oh, should children be told about these things or not? Or um, kids that are discovering mediumship, should you encourage it or not? And the people I know that had miserable childhoods because of mediumship, it was because they weren't believed and they got in trouble all the time for saying what they were
Mhm.
seeing.
Right,
And so if you can be supportive and help kids know, help them to take the fear out of it and also learn when to talk about it and with whom and not with whom,
right. I
then
think the thing that I always have done, William, with children is with parents is listen, listen. Don't respond negatively. Don't respond. Just listen. Let them know
right,
that you're listening and just kind of shake your head as you're listening. Let
uh-huh,
that journey happen on its own, and you'll be surprised what you'll find out too.
right.
I don't know if I ever told you about this, but I had a case years ago where a little girl was seeing a monster. She was claiming she had a ghost that was terrorizing her every night, and the parents were just absolutely horrified this was going on. She was waking up and she was waking up bruised and scratched and
Oh
all of
no.
these things going on with her. So we, had a child psychologist that actually I took with me on this case. And we had the little girl draw what was what was bothering her. And you would think parents would come up and think about this, but believe it or not, when you're living through that, you don't really think of, that sort of thing. And so she drew a picture, and it was very much like a man in a ski mask. Now, come to find out, the man in the ski mask was actually at night. They lived in a commune kind of place, and her uncle was climbing in her bedroom window at night with a ski mask, and he was raping her in the middle of the night.
Oh my God.
And that was the boogeyman. And so I always use that as an example to people where, it's like, listen, listen and let them know you're listening. And
Right.
try not to, you taught me a huge lesson, by the way. You taught me a lesson that you can't predetermine anything. You can't go in something and say, well, this is a haunting,
Right.
because not necessarily is it going to be. It really taught me a lot about children and what to listen to. I've dealt with a lot of cases with children, and the best advice would be to that. And when I write a children's book, it's going to be on the lines of letting kids that it's all right to talk about these things. It's nothing to be
Yeah.
afraid of.
And
So,
let parents know
right.
that there's something there often.
Mhm.
And it might be an imaginary friend, or it might just be a friend that you can't see, but your kid can.
Right. Or in an extreme case, it could be this. It's there's a wide range of things, and I think the lesson that it taught me was open mind. Open mind. Don't go in and don't predetermine anything. Keep that mind open. And because we kept our minds open, and because we went down the roads that we went to, we probably saved a child from a whole lot of pain.
Yes.
She
And
spent some.
hopefully, and
Oh, it
hopefully
did.
s- justice.
It it did stop, but yeah,
Nobody went to jail.
I
Oh,
don't know from that point. From that
yeah,
point,
yeah,
social services kind of takes care of that part of
yeah,
it. It's like, um, but I know we stopped it from happening. I know we helped the child, and that's the most important.
yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. And I know of another case similar. Um, a demon was forcing himself on the grandmother and the granddaughter, who was, I don't know how young, not as young as the child you're talking about, but a child. And it turns out the grandparents took maybe more acid than they should have before having sex, and the
Mm,
demon was the grandfather.
mm.
And that went to children's service instead of a paranormal investigation.
You know, the one thing that I can say that haunted me a lot about the haunting I lived through with my kids
Hmm.
was the fact of when my son went to the basement one day and he encountered something down there that chased him up. It's terrified him. And I remember my reaction to it was, this is the basement monster that all kids go through. I downplayed what his experience was because that is what we were taught to do. You know,
Right.
there is no boogeyman. There's, all kids see the monster in the basement. There's no monster in the basement or in the closet. Nothing's going to grab your foot hanging off the bed. So when it does, as parents, what we tend to do is we tend to do the same things we were taught, which was, you know, this is your imagination. But what if it's not their imagination? And what if at that point in time that this is something that's real, and to a child it's real? And I don't care if it's imagination or not. And in my child's case, it was very real. I remember the guilt I felt for dismissing it. And I kind of want to protect kids from that and kind of educate other parents to not do that, to open up so that they don't end up in a situation like where I did, where I'm telling my children it's going to be okay when in fact it wasn't. You know,
Right.
it didn't. And
Yeah.
it became very violent for us. Um, and so I think that's an important part of it too. And
Yeah.
Kids are a very, very important aspect of what I do in those senses because I think they need to be protected a little bit better than maybe we do
Right.
sometimes.
I think you're right. And, again, it depends. It's hard to say what's really going on with shows, but um, so many of them, the parent reacts the same way until they start having experiences. And on one hand, I understand it. I mean, I obviously believe in this because of my own experiences and the work I do. I'm a professional medium.
Right,
Um, but a lot of it isn't. I mean, I there is there are probably more things that are misunderstood. Like the monster you're seeing is actually the moon coming through the tree branches that are waving in the
sure,
breeze through the window shade onto your closet door. Um, and then the fear goes away because you know what it is. But it could be something else. Somebody breathing or somebody non-breathing.
right. So, but and also to keep in mind too that oftentimes, if a child is going through something traumatic, whether it's let's just use as an example, let's say grandmother died. That's a
Right.
traumatic moment. It's a traumatic moment. Sometimes traumatic moments will manifest themselves in different ways. You know, I so you got to keep an open mind because if a child is having nightmares, those nightmares are being caused for some reason. They're coming
That's
from
right.
something. If they're seeing something, that's coming from something for some reason. And I think to
Exactly.
just dismiss it is such a it's sort of a travesty for a child. And I did it though. I can talk about this openly and I can be judgmental about it now and talk about it and kind of scold a little bit because believe it or not, I beat myself up for it. So I understand it,
Yeah.
but it goes back to that thing, William. It's like, don't make the same mistakes I made. And the only way that you can ever make sure that somebody's not going to make the same mistakes you made is to share the mistakes you made, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Educate. That's what it's about.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
and that's
So
part of
you have to be able to put the ego aside and say, I really messed up at one point, and this is how I messed up. I've always, the biggest lessons through all of this, and through all of the writing, through all of the investigation, through all the help, through everything, the biggest lessons always come from the mistakes, the things you
yeah.
do wrong. And
Uh-huh.
those are the things that you want to talk about because those are the things that somebody else is going to do wrong too. You know,
Right.
and I think it comes through in the books, especially in the paranormal book. That I think that's why people. I think I get a good level of respect from people, and I think it comes through the fact that I'm not afraid to say I messed up, and this is how I messed up. And
Yeah.
maybe you don't want to mess up like I messed up. You know, I
Right.
think it comes from that. And I hope it does. I hope it does because I think the value part of what I can give to people is not only to open their mind and get them to think, but also to help them not make the same mistakes and mess ups I
Right.
have. We all have, I guess. This is
Yeah.
coffee. For those that follow me, and I say I drink a lot of coffee, this is coffee.
Yeah.
In
And
Mexico,
I've
we
got
drink.
water. It's a little early for
Yeah,
vodka.
I can't do a radio show without coffee. That goes back to the old broadcasting days when I was a producer and
Okay.
an on-air personality.
Yeah.
Um, Coffee. You can't do a radio show or a podcast or anything without the coffee.
Yeah. That makes sense. Um, I'll probably have another one later. I've had one today so far. Um, we're getting close to the end here. Do you have anything else in particular you want to get out before we end?
Well,
You've got a couple
coming up,
minutes.
well, Gorilla is out now. You can get
Right.
Gorilla wherever books are sold. It's actually doing quite well on the charts, by the way.
Good.
It really is. And so it's like give it a try. It's quite something. Grace will be out in November, which Grace will deal with. That's the book I wrote in 19, the play I wrote in 92, that has
Right.
become a book. And that'll be out in November. Zombie Road's written after that. We'll see when that comes out. It'll be within the year. After that, there's a book that's on the. I could if I showed you my desktop, you would freak. There's a book that I'm writing called. Well, I'm not going to tell anybody about that one yet.
Okay.
Oh wait, it's coming. It's interesting. That one is going to be another fiction book, and there's going to be some others in there. There's going to be some paranormal nonfiction short story book coming out. There's a lot of things. I'm doing a lot of research and a lot of travel. My next real big travel is in the end of September. We're going flying to Seattle, taking a ship and going across the Pacific to Yokohama. I'm going to spend time in Yokohama, Tokyo. I'm going to get on a plane and go to Taipei. And I'm going to spend Halloween in one of the most haunted hotels in the world in Taipei. Yes, you were right. It's in Taipei. So
Excellent.
yeah,
Oh,
so yeah, there's a lot going on.
yeah.
Travel inspires so much of what I do and the investigation I do and the research I do now.
Yeah.
To understand the world is to get into the world and to get outside of your backyard. I've learned that. And I've been to places that most people dream of being, and standing.
Right.
Um, and
Yeah.
it's I'm lucky. I'm lucky for that reason.
Yeah, you
And
are.
that's a lot of what's coming up. And there's some things coming up that I can't talk about,
Right.
but they're huge. They're
Yes.
huge. Just get ready to seatbelt yourselves in. So
Yeah.
it's coming.
And that's exciting for me. I mean, to have you being able to do all this that you love and having success with it, that I that makes me feel good to see that, Um, and I think too, part of what helps with expanding ourselves and seeing so much more, the travel, but also the travel beyond the three-dimensional material world that our body lives in, the more we can understand the fullness of reality in life, I think the richer our lives are,
Well,
in
we
my
had a long
experience.
right. We had a long talk about that last time. Remember, we talked
Yeah,
about the paranormal being about living, not about death.
yeah,
I
absolutely.
believe that fully. By the way.
Yeah, yeah. And um, it's a beautiful thing, and it also takes away the fear of dying,
Well,
in my
I
case.
did that already. So, I
Uh,
had for 38 seconds. I mean, I know what it is to die. Death doesn't
yeah,
fear me. What I fear about death is how it's going to happen.
exactly.
I, I
Me
think
too.
that's all of us to an extent, really. Do you really fear death itself? I don't. I know a lot of people would probably say no, but I think it's the fear of how that's going to happen is
Yeah,
what really people.
yeah. I know it is for me. Um, I don't like pain. I don't like long drawn out things, and I don't like terror as far as it being me being terrified. Um, so
Nobody likes terror, William. Nobody.
I like reading about it or reading it, but
Yeah, I like writing
sometimes.
it, but living it. I
Yeah,
mean, I've been there, done that. I don't know.
yeah,
I want to go back
yeah.
to that one.
Well, and with the work I do, I just don't have fear of the paranormal. I'm sure there's a
You
lot
know,
out there that I haven't experienced. Well, I haven't experienced what you have,
right.
but my experiences have all been positive once I've known what it is.
I don't mind coming on here and talking about that time of my life with you because I know we're doing it from an educational standpoint. But it
Uh-huh.
really is hard for me to wrap around my mind around the idea that the worst part of my life people want to be entertained by. You know,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like, I'm serious. It's like, oh my gosh, people will come up to you. I saw a haunting, and it was my favorite episode. It scared us. We watch it every Halloween, and then you kind of stop and go, wow. So the worst moments of my life are your entertainment. There's kind of an effed up version of that there. I mean, it's like you really don't know how to wrap your mind around that sometimes.
Actually, when you put
Um,
it that way, it's a really effed up version of it.
it is,
Uh, and I
it's
certainly didn't mean it that way at
no,
all,
not with you. With you, it's we're doing it. I don't mind. You notice how easily I'll talk about it with you because we're
Yeah,
doing it from an educational standpoint. But
yeah.
I've done interviews where you would think I'm talking about the movie of the week, and it's like you have to stop and go. We're talking about something I actually lived through. We're talking about when you hear I'm a single father and the horrors that led up to that and what we lived through. That was my life we're talking about. It's not entertainment, you know.
Right. And
I
your
think that's
children's life
hard.
for who you were responsible for.
But that's that give and take too of there's certain things you have to accept to do to come forward with it and to share it for the right reasons, but there's still those wrong reasons that are there that come out of it. And
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, it's
yeah.
it's there. I still haven't wrapped my mind totally around it. I gotten to the point where I'm not offended by it now. I
Okay.
can look at people and kind of smile at it, but I'm thinking to myself, wow, okay. How would
Yeah.
you feel if this was you? I don't know. I don't know how you would, maybe this conversation would be a little different with that person. Um,
And I can't
I've
say
never talked about this publicly. You got me to talk about something I've never talked about.
oh, okay. I hope that's a good thing for you, not a
Yeah.
bad one.
No, it was good. It's a good thing, but I never really put it out there. But yeah, it's interesting. It's
Yeah.
interesting.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you
Um,
for having me.
I don't ever like to pry where
With
the
you, it's not prying. With you, I know when we discuss it where it's coming from.
yeah.
It's others.
Good. Good. Thank you.
And it's funny because there's some that I'll do, and they'll say, "Well, we're going to do a show about your new book or about this specific thing," and I'll get on the show, and then 99.9% is uninvited and screaming house. Which you're not like that at all, but and it's like, okay,
Yeah.
if that's what you want to talk about, we'll do that.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting. It's interesting. It's so if you ever decide to come out and tell people your story, just understand that, or you do television or a movie or something like that, that it's going to follow you for the rest of your life,
Right. And
and
that's a
after
really good
and
point.
after your life too. It's gonna be around till you're way after you're
Well,
gone.
and that includes your Facebook posts
You're
and
right,
your Instagram videos
right.
and just about
It's
everything
all
these
gonna
days.
like it's all gonna follow you forever. When
Yeah.
I did that show in 2006, I had no idea that we would be sitting here almost 20 years later talking about it. It's like, but then you realize that it never goes away. There's people that are still that come up to me that think it happened yesterday. you know,
Right.
seriously. And it's like, I hope your children are all right. And I'm like, well, since they're in their middle 30s and have families of their own now, I think they're okay. I think I did
Yeah.
all right. But they
Yeah.
see them as children. I think it's hard for them in that way that they're
Yeah.
still viewed as children because they're adults, well
Yeah.
functioning
You have
adults.
grandkids.
Yeah, I
Uh-huh.
do. I have seven. Seven.
Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, you look at that and you go, yeah, it's this didn't happen yesterday. Trust me, we're doing quite okay now.
Yeah.
It's sweet. It's sweet though. The sweetness of people shows through a lot though.
Right.
because they're really concerned because it really affected them and they want to know everything's okay. But
And
in some ways, it's cute that they think it happened yesterday. You know,
yeah. Uh,
I've never talked about a lot of this, so yeah, it's true. It's that perception is different,
right.
and you learn to deal with it
Yeah.
in a lot of different ways.
Well, thank you so
I
much
live
for
a
that.
pretty private life right now. I've showed you a little bit of my area. I live
Right.
behind 12-foot walls. I mean, I live in my whole little world is behind
Right.
these walls. It's like my pool is right here by my office. I showed you that today.
Yeah.
It's like, I live in my own little enclosed world, and I like it that way in some ways until when I'm not out in the world investigating, researching, experiencing. That's where I'm at. Is I'm here, and
Yeah.
this is my safe spot. I like my safe spot. So
I'm glad you have one.
right, took a long time to get one, by the way.
Yeah.
It did.
But I'm glad you've got it. A lot of people never get there. Um, and
I've learned how to balance it all. And I think that's the one thing, my good friend, I had a good friend, Tim Yance, who's no longer with us. That's what he used to talk about. It's how you balance everything in life. And the
yeah.
good and the bad,
Yeah.
it's in how you approach everything with, what's important, laughter, family, um,
Hmm.
positivity, it's in how whatever it takes to get that peace and how you get there is what you need to do. And a lot of people just need to be told, it's okay to find that space. It's all
Yeah.
right. It's there for you if you want it, but you got to
And
work
you've
for it.
also, and it's also inside ourselves. So we have to create it. Doesn't matter what we have for that space on the outside. If we don't have it in our own souls, our own mind, our own hearts, we don't really have it with the physical. And you've done a really good job of pulling all of that together to create a truly safe space.
Yeah, it's healing. The healing has to start inwardly first. I mean,
Yes.
I had a lot to heal from, and and to understand. Believe it or not, I get asked this question a lot. Would I do it all over again? I think the answer is that they're expecting is that I would always say no. And you know what? I wouldn't change any of it for the world
It's
because
what
every bit of it has been part of my journey and has led me to where I am.
exactly.
I
And
view life that way. I view life as a journey, and I'm on this crazy journey, and I'm having a great time at it. And then not
fantastic.
all of it's perfect, and even when it's not perfect, I'm still appreciative because I'm learning, and that is part of what it all's about. And when you get to that point, when you realize it's all about learning and it's all about taking this trip and everything is a big vacation, life is. This is
Yeah.
all to be experienced. That's what we're here for. And once you get to that point, it's all a lot easier, and you
Yeah.
understand where you fit into the world. And that's it. I found where I fit. And there you go.
Stephen,
Now, that
that
was introspective. The show's over, I know.
that's the perfect way to end the show on a beautiful high note of deep introspective philosophy life that's important for everybody to have. So thank you.
Thank you for having me, as always. And thank you for the crazy conversation we always have. It's always fun. I always
Oh, I
appreciate
love it. I absolutely love it. And folks, I'm going to just put this up real fast. I have a workshop coming up in September and October, and um oh, I don't know how to share the screen, so I'll just post it on the reel at some point. And um and a couple things like that, and I'll just put it in the end here at the comments. And thank you all for showing up and watching. And feel free to share the show. I'll have it. It'll be up on the Super Spooky Network to whatever the Simply Spooky Network. I can't talk. Um, and I'll also have it. I'll have the link out on my YouTube channel as well. So thank you all. Take care.